37,000 feet above the earth, the night sky stretched endless and silent. Inside the first-class cabin of Korean Air Flight 027, the air hummed with quiet luxury. Soft amber lighting bathed leather seats in warmth. Crystal glasses sat untouched on polished trays. The world below had disappeared beneath clouds so thick they looked like frozen oceans. And in seat 2A, Kang Minit-jun sat perfectly still. His tailored black suit absorbed the dim light around him. His grey eyes reflected nothing. His hands rested on his thighs, fingers loose, relaxed, yet the faint black ink of a Korean Mafia bloodline tattoo curled across his knuckles like a whispered warning. He did not move. He did not speak. He simply existed in the silence like a man who had long forgotten how to need anything. The seat beside him was empty. Or so he thought. Then came the soft rustle of movement. A small pink sneaker appeared first. Then a teddy bear backpack. Then two perfectly round puff ponytails bouncing with each step. A little girl climbed into seat 2B, her warm brown skin glowing under the cabin lights, her hazel eyes wide with wonder. She looked up at the tall, silent man beside her. She smiled. "Hi," she said brightly. "I'm sitting next to you. Is that okay?" Kang Minit-jun blinked. For the first time in years, he did not know what to say. He gave a slow, careful nod. The little girl beamed. "Good," she said. "Because I don't like sitting alone." She settled into her seat, her small legs swinging freely above the floor. She hugged her teddy bear backpack to her chest. And without knowing it, without understanding why, she leaned just slightly toward him. As if she already felt safe. As if something deep inside her already recognized him. Kang Minit-jun turned his gaze back toward the window. His reflection stared back at him, cold, unreadable. But somewhere beneath that frozen surface, something stirred. Something he could not name. Something that felt almost like remembering. If you're enjoying this story, please tell us where you're watching from and share your thoughts or predictions in the comments. We love hearing from viewers around the world. Please like, share, and subscribe. Kang Minit-jun had not always been made of silence. Once, long ago, he had been a boy with laughter in his chest. He had run through the narrow streets of Busan with scraped knees and dirt on his hands. He had believed in things like hope and tomorrow. But that boy had died the night his father was killed. He was 14 years old. He watched it happen. He did not cry. He did not scream. He simply stood in the doorway of their family home, his hands trembling at his sides, and watched the life drain from the man who had raised him. The men who did it wore no masks. They wanted him to remember their faces. They wanted him to know exactly who had taken everything. And he did. Kang Minit-jun remembered every single one of them. By the time he turned 25, they were all dead. He inherited his father's empire not through bloodline alone, but through violence, patience, and a coldness that made older men afraid to meet his eyes. He restructured the organization. He expanded into logistics, shipping, finance. He built legitimate fronts so layered and sophisticated that even international investigators could not untangle them. On paper, he was a billionaire businessman. In reality, he controlled trade routes across Asia, Europe, and Africa. His name was whispered in boardrooms and back alleys alike. Kang Minit-jun. The silent chairman. The man who never raised his voice, because he never needed to. Now, at 38 years old, he sat in first class with the weight of an empire on his shoulders. He was returning from a conference in Lagos. A legitimate one, or at least, that was what the records would show. In truth, he had spent the past week negotiating territory with West African syndicates. Delicate work. Dangerous work. The kind of work that required absolute stillness. He had done it perfectly. As always. But now, for the first time in longer than he could remember, something had disrupted his stillness. It was the little girl beside him. She had not stopped talking since takeoff. "Do you like clouds?" she asked, pressing her face to the window. "I think they look like cotton candy. But not the pink kind. The white kind. Have you ever had white cotton candy? I had it once at a festival. It was really sweet." Kang Minit-jun did not respond. He did not know how. Children were not part of his world. They never had been. He had no siblings. No nieces or nephews. No godchildren. He had never held a baby. He had never attended a school play or a birthday party. His life had been built around boardrooms and bloodshed. Not bedtime stories. And yet, something about this child made him pause. She was not afraid of him. That alone was unusual. Most people, grown men, hardened criminals, politicians with armies at their command, could not meet his eyes for more than a few seconds. But this little girl looked at him like he was just a person. Like he was ordinary. Like he was safe. My mommy is in the other cabin, she continued, completely unbothered by his silence. She had to sit somewhere else because the plane was too full. But she said I could sit here by myself because I'm a big girl now. She puffed out her small chest proudly. I'm almost 7. Kang Minute-jun's brow twitched. Almost 7. That would mean she was born around. He stopped the thought before it could finish. There was no reason to calculate. No reason to wonder. The flight attendant appeared with a soft smile. Can I get you anything, sir? The little girl giggled. She called me, she whispered loudly to Kang Minute-jun, that's so funny. Despite himself, the corner of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile. But something close. Something he had not felt in years. He ordered nothing. The little girl asked for apple juice. She received it in a crystal glass, which made her gasp with delight. This is so fancy, she said, holding it with both hands like a treasure. Mommy would say I have to be very careful. She took a tiny sip. Then another. Then she looked up at him again. What's your name? He hesitated. Minute-jun, he said finally. It was the first time in years he had given only his first name. The little girl nodded seriously. That's a nice name. My name is Amora. It means grace. Mommy told me. Amora. The name settled into his chest like a stone dropped into still water. He did not know why. 7 years earlier. Seoul, South Korea. The rain fell in silver sheets across the city. Zainab Bello stood at the window of a penthouse apartment, her reflection ghost-like against the glass. She was 24 years old. Beautiful. Brilliant. And completely, terrifyingly in love. Behind her, Kang Minute-jun slept. His face, for once, was soft. The hard lines of his jaw had relaxed. The tension in his shoulders had melted away. He looked almost peaceful. Almost human. She had done that. She had found the cracks in his armor. She had slipped inside and made herself a home in his silence. And now she was carrying his child. She pressed her hand to her stomach. It was still flat. Still secret. No one knew. Not even him. She had found out 3 days ago. She had sat in a clinic bathroom, staring at the test results, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the paper. Pregnant. 8 weeks. The father, the most dangerous man in Asia. She should have been terrified. And she was. But beneath the fear, there was something else. Something warm. Something that felt like hope. She had imagined telling him. She had pictured his face, the way his gray eyes would widen, the way his stillness would crack, the way he might reach for her with trembling hands. She had imagined him choosing her. Choosing them. Choosing a life beyond blood and power. But then the warnings began. The first came from a man she did not recognize. He approached her outside a cafe, his face hidden beneath a hat. You should leave, he said quietly. Before they use you against him. She did not understand. Not then. The second came from a woman inside Kang Minute-jun's own organization. A secretary. Someone who had watched Zainab come and go for months. She pulled Zainab aside one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. There are people who want him dead. They will use anyone close to him. Anyone he loves. They will not hesitate to kill you, or worse. Zainab's blood ran cold. What do you mean, worse? The woman's eyes flickered with something dark. There are things more painful than death, Miss Bello. Especially for a woman carrying a child. Zainab stopped breathing. How do you know? The woman did not answer. She simply walked away. That night, Zainab made her decision. She could not tell him. If he knew about the baby, he would fight for them. He would burn the world to protect them. And in doing so, he would expose them to every enemy he had ever made. She could not let that happen. She would not let her child become a weapon. She would not let her love become his destruction. So she left. She packed a single bag while he slept. She kissed his forehead one last time. She whispered words he would never hear. I love you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. And then she walked out the door and disappeared into the rain. Present day. Somewhere over the Indian Ocean. Amora had fallen asleep. Her head rested against the side of her seat, her small body curled beneath a cashmere blanket the flight attendant had provided. Her teddy bear backpack sat in her lap, clutched tightly even in sleep. Kang Minit-jun watched her. He did not know why. She was just a child. A stranger's child. A girl who happened to be seated beside him due to an overflow in the economy cabin. There was no reason for him to feel, whatever this was. This strange pull. This quiet, inexplicable sense of recognition. He studied her face. Her skin was warm brown, smooth and soft. Her hair fell in dark curls around her cheeks. Her lashes were long and thick. And her features. There was something familiar about them. Something that tugged at the edges of his memory. He could not place it. The cabin lights dimmed further. Outside, the stars burned cold and bright. The aircraft hummed softly, carrying them across continents, across oceans, across time. And Kang Minit-jun sat in the silence, watching a little girl sleep, feeling something stir in a heart he had believed was dead. 2 rows behind them, hidden in the shadows of business class, a woman sat frozen. Her hands gripped the armrests so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. Her breath came in shallow, trembling waves. Her dark eyes, wide, haunted, filled with 7 years of secrets, were fixed on the back of a man's head. Kang Minit-jun. He was here. On this plane. Sitting beside her daughter. Zainab Bello closed her eyes and pressed her hand to her mouth to keep from crying out. She had been so careful. 7 years of hiding. 7 years of building a new life. 7 years of watching her daughter grow, watching her ask questions about her father, questions Zainab could never truly answer. Where is my daddy? Why don't I have a daddy like other kids? Does he love me? Zainab had always said the same thing. Your daddy is far away. But he would love you if he could. She had believed those words would be enough. She had believed she could keep them apart forever. But fate had other plans. Now, as the plane carried them toward Seoul, Zainab realized the truth she had spent 7 years running from. She could not hide anymore. The past had found her. And it was sitting in first class, wearing a tailored black suit, with their daughter asleep at his side. The aircraft began its descent into Incheon International Airport just as dawn broke across the Korean peninsula. Golden light spilled through the windows. Passengers stirred. Flight attendants moved through the cabin with practiced efficiency. And in seat 2B, Amora woke up. She stretched her small arms above her head and yawned. Then she turned to look at the man beside her. Good morning, she said cheerfully. Kang Minit-jun looked at her. For a moment, he did not speak. Then, slowly, he nodded. Good morning. Amora beamed. Did you sleep? I slept really good. I had a dream about a big dog. He was fluffy and nice. She paused. Do you have a dog? No. Oh. She seemed disappointed for exactly 1 second. Then she brightened again. Maybe you should get one. Dogs are really good friends. He did not know how to respond to that. So he simply looked at her. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, he wondered what it would feel like to have something innocent in his life. Something pure. Something worth protecting, not because of power or territory or bloodline, but simply because it existed. The wheels touched the runway with a soft jolt. Amora gasped. She pressed her face to the window. We're here. We're really here. She turned to him, her hazel eyes shining. Have you ever been to Korea before? He almost smiled. Once or twice. The plane taxied slowly toward the gate. Passengers began gathering their belongings. The cabin filled with movement and noise. But Kang Minit-jun did not move. He sat perfectly still, watching the little girl beside him chatter excitedly about everything she wanted to see. Mommy said we're going to visit her friend. And maybe eat real Korean food. Have you had Korean food? Is it spicy? I like spicy things. But not too spicy. She paused. Are you from Korea? Yes. That's so cool. You can show me all the good places then. She said it so simply. As if they were friends. As if they had known each other for years. The aircraft came to a stop. The seatbelt sign chimed off. Passengers stood, stretching, reaching for overhead compartments. And behind them, unseen, Zainab Bello rose on trembling legs. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Her palms were damp with fear. She watched her daughter stand up in the first-class cabin, clutching her teddy bear backpack, still talking to the man who had no idea who she was. She had to get to her. She had to get them both out of here before he saw her face. Before he recognized her. Before everything fell apart. She moved quickly through business class. She pushed past slower passengers. She kept her head down, her hair falling across her face like a curtain. She was almost there. Almost. And then Amora's voice rang out, clear as a bell. "Mommy." Time stopped. Zainab froze in the aisle. Her breath caught. Her heart slammed to a halt. Kang Minute Jun turned. And for the first time in 7 years, his eyes found hers. The world around them dissolved. Passengers blurred. Sounds faded. There was only this moment, this single, impossible, devastating moment. He stared at her. She stared at him. And between them, bouncing happily down the aisle, their daughter ran toward her mother without knowing she had just shattered everything. Zainab opened her mouth. No words came. Her legs trembled. Her vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. Kang Minute Jun's face did not change. But something behind his eyes, something deep and cold and ancient, shifted. Cracked. Broke. He recognized her. The woman who had vanished without a trace. The woman he had searched for across continents. The woman he had never stopped. His gaze dropped to the little girl now clinging to her leg. Warm brown skin. Hazel eyes. Dark curly hair. 7 years old. The calculation was instant. The realization, slower. Heavier. Like a blade sinking into his chest. His lips parted. His breath escaped in a single, silent exhale. And in that moment, Kang Minute Jun understood. He had spent an entire flight sitting beside his own daughter. And he had not known. If you're enjoying this story, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think will happen next? Drop your predictions in the comments below. And tell us, where are you watching from tonight? The terminal swallowed them whole. Bright lights. Polished floors. The hum of 1,000 travelers moving in 1,000 directions. But Zainab saw none of it. She held Amora's hand tightly, too tightly, and walked as fast as her trembling legs would allow. "Mommy, slow down," Amora complained. "You're squeezing." "I'm sorry, baby. Just keep walking." Behind them, Kang Minute Jun followed. He did not run. He did not call out. He simply walked, slow, steady, inevitable, like a man who had all the time in the world. Because he did. He owned this country. He owned these airports. There was nowhere she could go that he could not find her. Zainab's heart pounded. She could feel him behind her. Feel his gaze on her back like the heat of a spotlight. She had planned for so many things. She had prepared for emergencies, for dangers, for the possibility of being discovered by his enemies. But she had never prepared for this. For him. For the way his presence still made her knees weak. For the way her body remembered him even as her mind screamed to run. They reached immigration. She fumbled for their passports. Her hands shook. "Mommy." Amora looked up at her with concern. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired." The line moved slowly. Too slowly. She could hear footsteps behind her. Measured. Patient. Closing the distance. And then a voice. Low. Quiet. Controlled. "Zainab." Her entire body went cold. She did not turn. She could not. "Mommy," Amora whispered loudly, "that man knows your name." Zainab closed her eyes. She took one breath. Then another. And finally, she turned. He stood 3 feet away. Impeccable as always. His black suit fit him like armor. His gray eyes held the same cold fire she remembered from years ago. The tattoo on his knuckles, the bloodline mark of his family, seemed darker than she remembered. He looked exactly the same. And completely different. "Minute Jun," she said. Her voice was steady. She did not know how. He did not respond. His gaze was not on her. It was on the little girl holding her hand. On the curly hair. The hazel eyes. The features that were half his. "She's mine," he said. It was not a question. Zainab's throat tightened. Minute Jun. Don't. His voice dropped to a whisper. Dangerous. Controlled. Don't lie to me again. Amora tugged at Zainab's sleeve. Mommy, who is this man? The question hung in the air like a blade. Zainab looked down at her daughter. At the innocent, trusting face staring up at her. At the child who had spent her whole life asking about a father she had never met. She looked back at Kang Minute Jun. At the man who had never known he had a child. Who had spent 7 years searching for her, for answers, for something he could not name. And in that moment, standing in the middle of a crowded airport, surrounded by strangers, Zainab realized she had only 2 choices. She could lie. Again. She could deny everything, grab her daughter, and disappear into the city. She could spend the rest of her life running. Or she could tell the truth. She looked at her daughter. She looked at the man she had loved. She looked at the wreckage of everything she had built. And she made her choice. Amora, she said softly. This is someone Mommy knew a long time ago. The little girl tilted her head. Is he a friend? Zainab hesitated. It's complicated. Kang Minute Jun stepped closer. His gaze finally lifted to Zainab's face. There was no anger in his eyes. No accusation. Only something far worse. Pain. Raw. Unfiltered. Buried for so long it had calcified into silence. Why? He asked. One word. Quiet. Devastating. Zainab's composure cracked. A single tear slid down her cheek. To protect her, she whispered. To protect you. He shook his head slowly. You took everything from me. And you called it protection. The line moved forward. Passengers pushed past them. The world continued spinning. But Zainab and Kang Minute Jun stood frozen in the wreckage of 7 years. And between them, holding her mother's hand, their daughter looked back and forth with wide, confused eyes. She did not understand. Not yet. But she could feel it. Something enormous. Something invisible. Something that connected her to this silent man in ways she could not name. She looked up at him. At his sharp jaw. His gray eyes. His stillness. And for a reason she did not understand, she smiled. I like your suit, she said. It's very fancy. Kang Minute Jun looked down at her. His expression did not change. But something behind his eyes softened. Just for a moment. Just enough. Thank you, he said quietly. Amora beamed. You're welcome. And in that simple exchange, those innocent words from a child who did not know she was speaking to her father, something shifted. Something old. Something broken. Something that might, one day, become whole again. They moved through immigration in silence. Zainab had tried to slip away, to lose him in the crowd, but his people were everywhere. Men in dark suits. Earpieces glinting. Eyes following her every move. There was no escape. There had never been. A black car waited outside the terminal. Sleek. Silent. Expensive. One of his men opened the door. Kang Minute Jun gestured for her to enter. We need to talk. Not in front of her. Then she will wait in the next car. With people I trust. I don't trust anyone you trust. His jaw tightened. Then trust that I would never harm my own child. The words hit her like a physical blow. My own child. He had accepted it. Already. Completely. She looked down at Amora, who was watching the exchange with growing confusion. Mommy? What's happening? Zainab knelt down. She took her daughter's hands. Sweetheart, Mommy needs to talk to this man for a little while. You're going to ride in a different car with some nice people. I'll be right behind you. Amora's eyes widened. But it's okay. Zainab forced a smile. I promise. I'll be right there. The little girl hesitated. Then she looked up at Kang Minute Jun. Are you going to be nice to my mommy? The question should have been absurd. He was a mafia boss. A man who had ordered deaths without blinking. A man whose name made grown men weep. But he looked down at this child, his child, and something inside him shifted. Yes, he said quietly. I will be nice. Amora studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay. But if you're mean, I won't like you anymore. Zainab's heart broke a little more. The girl was led to the second car by a woman in a crisp suit, someone Zainab did not recognize but who smiled gently and offered Amora a lollipop. Amora waved. "Bye, Mommy. Bye, Mr. Minute-Jun." And then she was gone. Zainab stood frozen on the curb. The weight of everything pressed down on her shoulders. 7 years of running. 7 years of hiding. 7 years of lies. All of it crashing down in a single morning. "Get in the car," Kang Minute-Jun said. His voice was quiet. But it was not a request. She got in. The car moved through Seoul like a ghost. Tinted windows blocked the outside world. Inside, the leather seats smelled new. The air was cool. And the silence was suffocating. Zainab sat with her hands in her lap, staring straight ahead. Kang Minute-Jun sat beside her, his body angled slightly toward the window. He had not looked at her since they entered the vehicle. Minutes passed. 5. 10. 15. Finally, she spoke. "You have questions. I have rage." She flinched. "But rage will not help me understand," he continued, his voice low. "So I am choosing questions." He turned to face her. His eyes were cold. But beneath the cold, she saw something else. Something raw. Something wounded. 7 years, he said. 7 years you let me believe you were dead. That you abandoned me. That I was not enough. Minute-Jun. I searched for you. His voice cracked, just barely. I searched everywhere. I sent men to every country you had ever mentioned. Every city. Every contact. I spent millions. Years. I thought you had been taken. Killed. Erased. He leaned closer. And the whole time, you were alive. Raising my child. Without me. Zainab's tears fell freely now. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. Not when your enemies were watching me. Her voice rose. Not when they told me, that if you knew about her, they would use her against you. That they would take her. Hurt her. Kill her in front of you to break you. He went still. Who told you this? People inside your organization. People close to you. They knew about us, Minute-Jun. They knew before we did. His hands curled into fists. The tattoo on his knuckles seemed to darken. Names. I don't know all of them. But one woman. A secretary. She warned me. She said there were factions planning a coup. That they would use me, use the baby, as leverage. She said the only way to protect us both was to disappear. Kang Minute-Jun's jaw tightened. Describe her. Older. Maybe 50s. Short hair. A mole near her left eye. Something flickered across his face. Recognition. Fury. Grief. She's dead, he said quietly. Has been for 6 years. Zainab's breath caught. What? She was part of the coup. One of the masterminds. I eliminated the entire faction after they tried to assassinate me. He paused. She died believing she had won. That she had taken everything from me. Zainab felt the floor drop out from under her. Then it was a lie? She wasn't trying to protect me. She was trying to destroy me. And she used you to do it. The realization hit her like a wave. She had run. She had hidden. She had kept their daughter a secret for 7 years. And it had all been based on the lies of a dead woman who wanted them both to suffer. Oh God, she whispered. Oh God, Minute-Jun, I'm so sorry. He did not respond. He turned back to the window. His reflection stared back at him, hollow, haunted. And in the silence of that car, both of them felt the full weight of what had been stolen. Not by enemies. Not by violence. But by fear. And lies. And the terrible cost of love in a world that punished softness. They arrived at a private estate on the outskirts of Seoul. Traditional Korean architecture blended with modern security. High walls. Surveillance cameras. Guards at every gate. Amora was already inside. She sat in a sunlit sitting room, drawing on a piece of paper the staff had given her. When Zainab entered, she looked up and smiled. Mommy. Look. I drew a picture of the plane. Zainab rushed to her. She scooped her daughter into her arms and held her tight. That's beautiful, baby. Are you okay, Mommy? You look like you were crying. I'm fine, I'm just happy to see you. Behind them, Kang Minit-jun stood in the doorway. He did not enter. He simply watched. His eyes moved over the scene, the way the child's arms wrapped around her mother's neck. The way her laughter filled the room. The way she radiated warmth in a house that had known none. He watched. And he ached. Amora noticed him. Mr. Minit-jun. Come look at my drawing. He hesitated. Come on, she insisted. You have to see it. Slowly, he crossed the room. He lowered himself beside her. She held up the paper proudly. See? That's the plane. And that's me. And that's you. He looked at the drawing. A crooked airplane. 2 stick figures sitting side by side. One tall. One small. Both smiling. His chest tightened. It's very good, he said quietly. I know. She grinned. I'm a good artist. He almost smiled. Almost. And across the room, Zainab watched them together. Father and daughter. Strangers who were not strangers at all. 2 halves of a whole that had never been allowed to meet. Her heart broke all over again. But this time, it was not from loss. It was from hope. Thank you so much for staying with this story. Your support means everything. If you're enjoying it, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love connecting with viewers from every corner of the world. Across Seoul, in a high-rise office overlooking the Han River, a man stood before a wall of monitors. His name was Park Sung-ho. He had once been Kang Minit-jun's second-in-command. He had been loyal, trusted, indispensable. Until he wasn't. He had been part of the failed coup 6 years earlier. But unlike the others, he had survived. He had hidden. He had rebuilt. And now, he was watching. The footage on the screen showed the airport. Kang Minit-jun. A woman. A child. Park Sung-ho leaned closer. His eyes narrowed. Who is the child? His assistant stepped forward. Intelligence suggests she may be the chairman's daughter. Kept hidden for years. A slow smile spread across Park Sung-ho's face. A daughter. He turned away from the monitors. 7 years ago, we tried to break him through his heart. We failed because the woman disappeared. He looked back at the screen. At the little girl with the curly hair and bright smile. But now we have something better. His assistant shifted nervously. Sir, the chairman's security is impenetrable. If we move against the child. We won't touch the child. Not yet. He clasped his hands behind his back. We will let him love her first. Let him attach. Let him become weak. His smile widened. And then we will take everything. 3 days passed. Zainab and Amora remained at the estate. Kang Minit-jun did not force them to stay. He did not need to. The truth had trapped them all. During the day, Zainab kept her distance. She watched from windows. From doorways. From the shadows of her own guilt. But Amora had no such reservations. She followed Kang Minit-jun everywhere. She asked him questions constantly. Why do you wear the same color every day? Do you like ice cream? What's your favorite animal? Why are you so tall? Do you ever smile? He answered every question. Quietly. Patiently. With more words than he had spoken in years. And slowly, so slowly neither of them noticed, something changed. He began leaving meetings early to see her drawings. He began eating meals at the same table instead of alone. He began listening for her laughter. Craving it. Needing it. One evening, Amora fell asleep on the couch. Kang Minit-jun found her there, curled up with her teddy bear backpack, her breath soft and steady. He stood over her for a long moment. Then, carefully, he lifted her into his arms. She was so small. So light. So impossibly fragile. He carried her to her room. He laid her gently on the bed. He pulled the blanket over her shoulders. And then, without thinking, he brushed a curl from her forehead. Sleep well, he murmured. He turned to leave. But at the doorway, he stopped. Zainab stood in the hallway. Watching. Her eyes were wet. She already loves you, she whispered. She doesn't know why, but she does. He looked at her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, quietly, he said, she has your smile. Zainab's composure cracked. A sob escaped her. She pressed her hand to her mouth. He stepped closer. Not touching. Not yet. But close enough that she could feel his warmth. I don't forgive you, he said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She nodded, tears streaming. I know. But I understand. She looked up at him. I understand fear, he continued. I understand doing terrible things to protect the people you love. I understand choosing silence when there are no good choices. He exhaled slowly. I have done worse. She shook her head. You couldn't have. I have killed men for less than what was done to us. I have destroyed lives over slights that seem meaningless now. He paused. You hid to protect her. I built empires to protect no one but myself. The silence stretched between them. We are both broken, he said finally. But maybe. He did not finish. He did not need to. Zainab understood. Maybe, together, they could be whole. The next morning, a package arrived at the estate. It was addressed to Kang Minit-jun. No return address. No postmark. His head of security brought it to him personally. We scanned it, sir. It's clean. But. It contains photographs. Kang Minit-jun opened the package alone. Inside were 3 photographs. The first, Amora at the airport, holding Zainab's hand. The second, Amora in the estate garden, drawing. The third, Amora asleep on the couch. A note was attached. Typed. Clinical. She has your eyes. It would be a shame if something happened to them. Kang Minit-jun's blood turned to ice. He did not rage. He did not shout. He simply stood in the silence of his office, holding the photographs, feeling something ancient and dark rise from the depths of his chest. They had threatened his daughter. Whoever they were, wherever they were, they had signed their own death warrants. He pressed the intercom on his desk. Gather the council. Full security lockdown. No one enters or leaves without my approval. The hunt had begun. Kang Minit-jun looked at the photographs one more time. His daughter's face. Innocent. Unknowing. Vulnerable. He had only just found her. Only just begun to understand what it meant to have something worth losing. And now, someone was threatening to take her from him. He placed the photographs face down on his desk. His hands were steady. His expression was calm. But behind his eyes, something had ignited. Something cold. Something merciless. Something that had not been unleashed in years. Find them, he murmured to the empty room. Find them all. And somewhere across Seoul, in a high-rise overlooking the river, Park Sung-ho watched his phone light up with confirmation that the package had been delivered. He smiled. Let the games begin. The estate transformed overnight. What had once been a sanctuary of quiet luxury became a fortress of calculated precision. Armed guards patrolled every corridor. Surveillance cameras multiplied like watchful eyes. The gardens, where Amora had played just yesterday, were now swept hourly for threats. Kang Minit-jun stood at the window of his private study, watching the security teams move below. His reflection stared back at him. Cold. Unreadable. The tattoo on his neck seemed darker in the morning light. The serpent coiled around a chrysanthemum, the mark of his bloodline. Behind him, the door opened. His most trusted advisor entered. Kwon Jae-hyun. 62 years old. Silver hair swept back from a weathered face. He had served the Kang family for 4 decades. He had watched Minit-jun grow from a grieving boy into the most feared man in Asia. The council is assembled, Jae-hyun said quietly. And our intelligence. Still gathering. But we have a lead. Kang Minit-jun turned. Speak. Jae-hyun hesitated, something he rarely did. The photographs were taken by someone inside the estate, sir. The angles, the proximity, this was not an outside job. The silence that followed was suffocating. You're telling me, Kang Minit-jun said slowly, that one of my own people betrayed me. I'm telling you that someone close has been compromised. Whether through bribery, blackmail, or ideology, we don't yet know. Kang Minit-jun's jaw tightened. Find them. We will, sir. But there's something else. Jae-hyun placed a tablet on the desk. A photograph filled the screen. Park Sung-ho. He's alive. Kang Minute-jun's voice dropped to a whisper. He's been alive for 6 years. Operating in the shadows. Building a network of former loyalists and new recruits. He's been patient, sir. Very patient. Kang Minute-jun stared at the face of the man who had once stood beside him in battle. The man who had betrayed him. The man he had believed was dead. He sent the photographs. We believe so. Kang Minute-jun closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed. The cold had deepened. The stillness had sharpened. Then he has chosen his death, he said quietly. He simply doesn't know it yet. Zainab found out about the threat 3 hours later. She had noticed the increased security. The tension in the staff. The way guards now followed her everywhere. When she demanded answers, Kang Minute-jun told her the truth. All of it. She sat in silence as he spoke. Her hands trembled in her lap. Her face grew pale. They photographed her, she whispered. Inside the estate. While she was sleeping. Yes. And you don't know who. We will find them. I promise you that. She looked up at him. Her dark eyes burned with something he had not seen before. Fear, yes. But beneath it, fury. I spent 7 years running, she said, her voice shaking. 7 years hiding. I gave up everything, my career, my home, my country, to keep her safe. She stood. And now, 3 days after you find us, she's in more danger than ever. The accusation hung in the air. Kang Minute-jun did not flinch. The danger was always there, Zainab. It existed whether you were hiding in Lagos or standing in my home. Park Sung-ho was hunting for leverage against me. He would have found her eventually. So this is my fault. No. His voice softened, barely. It's mine. She stopped. I built this empire, he continued. I made the enemies. I chose power over peace. Every person who wants to destroy me, every threat against our daughter, exists because of decisions I made. He paused. You ran to protect her from me. And perhaps you were right too. The confession broke something between them. The wall she had built. The distance she had maintained. Zainab's tears fell. I never wanted you to be the enemy, Minute-jun. I loved you. I still. She stopped herself. He looked at her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, slowly, he crossed the room. He stood before her. Close enough to touch. I will protect her, he said quietly. With everything I have. Everything I am. I will burn this world to the ground before I let anyone harm her. Zainab looked into his eyes. She saw the truth there. The absolute, unwavering truth. I believe you, she whispered. And for the first time since the airport, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. Amora did not understand why everyone was acting strange. The guards who used to smile at her now looked serious. Her mother kept hugging her too tight. And Mr. Minute-jun, he had become even quieter than before. She found him in the garden that afternoon. He was standing beneath a cherry blossom tree, staring at nothing. His hands were clasped behind his back. The tattoo on his wrist was visible, black ink against pale skin. Mr. Minute-jun. He turned. Amora. She walked up to him without hesitation. Why is everyone sad? He knelt down to her level. We're not sad. We're just being careful. Careful about what? He hesitated. How did you explain danger to a child? How did you tell her that monsters existed, not in storybooks, but in boardrooms and shadows? Sometimes, he said slowly, there are people who want to cause trouble. And when that happens, we have to make sure everyone stays safe. Amora nodded seriously. Like when someone is being a bully at school. He almost smiled. Yes. Like that. My friend Chiamaka had a bully, Amora continued. He was really mean. But then the teacher found out and he got in big trouble. She paused. Are you the teacher? This time, he did smile. Small. Brief. But real. Something like that. Amora beamed. Good. Because bullies should get in trouble. She reached out and took his hand. Her small fingers wrapped around his. Warm. Trusting. Innocent. Kang Minute-jun looked down at their joined hands. He had commanded armies. He had ended lives with a single word. He had made grown men weep with fear. But nothing, had ever made him feel as powerful as this moment. Mr. Minute-jun. Yes. Can I call you something else? Mr. Minute-jun is really long. His heart stopped. What would you like to call me? She thought for a moment. Maybe. Appa. The Korean word for father. Kang Minute-jun's vision blurred. His throat tightened. His chest ached with something so profound he could not name it. You know what that means, he managed. Mommy taught me some Korean words. She said Appa means daddy. She looked up at him. Her hazel eyes, so much like his, were open and curious. Is that okay? You feel like an Appa. He could not speak. He could not breathe. 7 years. 7 years of not knowing she existed. 7 years of emptiness he had filled with power and silence. And now, here, in a garden beneath cherry blossoms, his daughter was asking to call him father. He knelt before her fully. He took both her hands in his. Yes, he whispered. Yes, you can call me that. Amora smiled, bright as sunlight. Okay, Appa. And Kang Minute-jun felt something he had not felt in decades. He felt whole. If you're watching from anywhere in the world tonight, we want to hear from you. Drop your country in the comments below. Let us know if this story is touching your heart. Your engagement means everything to us. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying this journey. The investigation moved swiftly. Kang Minute-jun's people swept through the estate staff with surgical precision. Background checks. Financial audits. Communication intercepts. Within 48 hours, they had their answer. The betrayer was a young woman named Yoon Seo-yeon. 26 years old. A junior member of the household staff. She had been hired 8 months earlier with impeccable references. Except the references were fake. Her identity was fabricated. And her real name, her real history, led straight back to Park Sung-ho. She was his niece. They found her trying to flee through the service entrance at 3 in the morning. She was brought before Kang Minute-jun in the basement level of the estate. A room with no windows. No cameras. No witnesses except the men who would never speak of what happened there. She knelt on the cold concrete floor, her hands bound behind her back. Her face was streaked with tears. Her body trembled. Kang Minute-jun stood before her. Silent. Still. Waiting. Please, she whispered. Please, I didn't want to. You photographed my daughter while she slept. His voice was quiet. Almost gentle. He made me. My uncle. He said he would kill my mother if I didn't. You had a choice. I didn't. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. He stepped closer. The light caught the tattoo on his knuckles, the bloodline mark that had witnessed decades of such moments. You could have come to me. You could have told my people. You could have trusted that I would protect you. I was scared. So you chose to threaten my child instead. She sobbed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Kang Minute-jun studied her. His grey eyes held no warmth. No mercy. Only calculation. Where is he? I don't know. He moves constantly. He never stays. You're lying. I'm not. I swear. He contacts me through encrypted messages. I've never seen his location. He believed her. Not because he trusted her words, but because he could see the truth in her terror. She was a pawn. Expendable. Disposable. Park Sung-ho would never have trusted her with real information. Take her, he said to his men. She screamed. No. Please. I told you everything. He turned away. She lives. For now. She may still be useful. The men dragged her out. Her cries echoed down the corridor. Then silence. Kang Minute-jun stood alone in the empty room. His hands were clean. No blood. No violence. Not yet. But it was coming. He could feel it. The storm gathering on the horizon. The final confrontation that had been 7 years in the making. Park Sung-ho wanted war. He would have it. That night, Zainab found Kang Minute-jun in his study. The lights were dim. A glass of whiskey sat untouched on his desk. He was staring at a photograph, one of the ones that had been sent. Amora sleeping. You should rest, she said quietly. I can't. She crossed the room. She sat in the chair across from him. What happens now? We hunt. We find him. We end this. And if he finds us first? His jaw tightened. He won't. Zainab leaned forward. Minute June, look at me. He did. His grey eyes met her dark ones. I need you to understand something, she said. For 7 years, I made every decision alone. I carried every burden alone. I protected her alone. She paused. I don't want to be alone anymore. He was silent. But I also need to know that you won't become a monster again. That protecting her won't mean destroying yourself. I am what I am, Zainab. No. She shook her head. You are also Amora's father. She doesn't need a monster. She needs you. The words cut deeper than any blade. He looked away. I don't know how to be what she needs. Then learn. You have time. You have her. You have. She hesitated. You have me. If you want. He looked back at her. Something shifted in his gaze. The coldness cracked, just slightly. Just enough. I never stopped looking for you, he said quietly. Even when I thought you were dead. Even when everyone told me to move on. I couldn't. Her eyes filled with tears. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. Even when I was running. Even when I told myself I hated you. I couldn't. The distance between them shrank. The years fell away. He reached out. His fingers brushed her cheek. Gentle. Trembling. We have lost so much time, he murmured. Then let's not lose anymore. She leaned into his touch. Her eyes closed. A tear slipped down her cheek. And in the silence of that room, two broken people found their way back to each other. Fade to black. The next morning, everything felt different. The air was lighter. The tension had shifted. Amora noticed it immediately. Mommy, why are you smiling so much? Zainab laughed. Am I? Yeah. You look really happy. She kissed her daughter's forehead. I am happy, baby. I'm happy we're together. Amora grinned. Me too. And Appa makes good breakfast. Zainab's heart swelled. Appa. Her daughter was calling him Appa. She had dreamed of this. In the darkest nights of hiding. In the loneliest moments of exile. She had dreamed of her daughter knowing her father. And now it was real. In the kitchen, Kang Minute Jun stood at the counter. He was not cooking, he had never cooked a day in his life. But he was supervising the chef with intense focus as the man prepared pancakes shaped like bays. The ears must be even, he said seriously. She will notice if they are not. The chef nodded nervously. Yes, Chairman. Amora bounced into the kitchen. Appa. Are the pancakes ready? He turned. And for the first time in his life, Kang Minute Jun genuinely smiled. Not a small twitch. Not a brief flicker. A real smile. Warm. Unguarded. Human. Almost, he said. Come see. She ran to him. He lifted her onto the counter so she could watch. She gasped with delight at the bear-shaped pancakes. They're so cute. The chef worked very hard. Thank you, chef. The chef bowed, looking utterly terrified and utterly charmed at the same time. Zainab watched from the doorway. Her eyes glistened. This was what they should have had. This was what 7 years of fear had stolen. But they had it now. And she would fight with everything she had to keep it. Park Sung-ho did not wait. He had spent 6 years planning. 6 years building. 6 years waiting for the perfect moment. And now that moment had arrived. The attack came at noon. 12 men. Military precision. They breached the eastern wall using explosives that overwhelmed the security sensors. The estate erupted into chaos. Guards scrambled. Alarms screamed. Gunfire shattered the morning peace. Kang Minute Jun moved instantly. Years of training took over. Years of survival. Get them to the safe room, he ordered. Now. His men surrounded Zainab and Amora. They were rushed through corridors. Downstairs. Through hidden passages. Amora cried out in fear. Mommy. What's happening? Zainab held her tight. It's okay, baby. We're going somewhere safe. Just hold on to me. The safe room was buried deep beneath the estate. Steel walls. Reinforced door. Enough supplies to last weeks. They made it inside just as another explosion rocked the building above. The door sealed behind them. The locks engaged. And then, silence. Amora sobbed against her mother's chest. "Where's Appa? Where's Appa?" Zainab held her tighter. "He's coming, baby. He's coming." But she didn't know. She couldn't know. Above them, the battle raged. Kang Minit-jun fought like the man he had always been. Cold. Precise. Merciless. He moved through the estate with two of his most trusted guards. Bodies fell. Enemies retreated. But this was not a random attack. This was a coordinated strike. And Park Sung-ho had learned from their last encounter. A second team breached the western entrance. A third came through the roof. They were being overwhelmed. "Fall back to the secondary position," Kang Minit-jun commanded. "Protect the safe room entrance." His men obeyed. He stayed behind. Alone. 3 attackers found him in the main hall. They wore black tactical gear. They carried automatic weapons. They thought they had the advantage. They were wrong. Kang Minit-jun killed the first before he could raise his rifle. The second fell with a knife in his throat. The third fired. Pain erupted in Kang Minit-jun's shoulder. Hot. Sharp. Familiar. He did not stop. He closed the distance. He disarmed the man. He ended him with his own weapon. Then he stood in the blood-soaked hall, breathing hard, his hand pressed to his wounded shoulder. The fighting was dying down. His men were winning. But this was only the first wave. Park Sung-ho was not here. He was watching. Testing. Probing for weaknesses. And he had found one. The attack lasted 47 minutes. 23 of Park Sung-ho's men were killed. 8 of Kang Minit-jun's guards fell. The estate was damaged but defensible. When the all-clear was given, Kang Minit-jun went straight to the safe room. His shoulder had been hastily bandaged. Blood still seeped through the white fabric. The door opened. Amora burst out. "Appa!" She ran to him. She threw her arms around his legs. She sobbed against his thigh. He knelt, wincing at the pain, and held her. Really held her. His blooded hands pressed against her small back. His face buried in her curly hair. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Zainab stood in the doorway. Her eyes were red. Her hands trembled. She looked at the blood on his suit. The wound on his shoulder. The exhaustion in his eyes. And she felt her heart break and rebuild in the same moment. He had fought for them. He had bled for them. He had become what she had always feared, and what she had always needed. "Minit-jun," she breathed. He looked up at her. And in his eyes, she saw something new. Not coldness. Not rage. Resolution. "This ends now," he said. "I will find him. And I will finish this." For the next 72 hours, Kang Minit-jun turned Seoul upside down. Every contact. Every informant. Every resource at his disposal. Park Sung-ho had gone to ground, but he could not hide forever. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Yoon Seo-yun. The captured spy. In exchange for her mother's safety, she agreed to send a false message to her uncle. A plea for extraction. A meeting point Park Sung-ho believed he had won. He believed his niece had escaped. He believed he was one step ahead. He was wrong. The warehouse sat on the edge of Incheon's industrial district. Abandoned. Forgotten. The perfect place for a secret meeting. Park Sung-ho arrived with 6 guards. He was confident. Smug. He had waited 6 years for this moment. He never saw Kang Minit-jun coming. The attack was swift. Silent. By the time Park Sung-ho realized what was happening, his guards were down and he was alone. He stood in the center of the warehouse, a single light illuminating his aged face. He had grown thin over the years. His hair had grayed. But his eyes still held the same cunning cruelty. "Minit-jun," he said, almost pleasantly. "You found me." Kang Minit-jun stepped into the light. His black suit was immaculate. His face was expressionless. The tattoo on his knuckles seemed to glow in the dim light. "You made it easy." Park Sung-ho laughed. "Easy? I've been running circles around you for 6 years. I infiltrated your estate. I photographed your daughter. You're standing alone in an abandoned warehouse, surrounded by my men, about to die. The laughter stopped. You won't kill me, Park Sung-ho said, but his voice wavered. You need information. You need to know who else is involved. I already know. Then I need nothing from you. Kang Minit-jun stepped closer. 6 years ago, you tried to destroy me. You failed. You hid. You planned. You waited. He paused. And then you threatened my daughter. Park Sung-ho's face paled. She's just a child, he said quickly. I never would have actually. You photographed her while she slept. You sent me images of my daughter with a threat attached. Kang Minit-jun's voice dropped to a whisper. Did you think I would negotiate? Did you think I would hesitate? Did you think there was anything in this world that could stop me from killing you? Park Sung-ho took a step back. Then another. Minit-jun. We were brothers once. We fought together. You betrayed me. I had no choice. The old guard wanted change. They are all dead. And now, so are you. Park Sung-ho lunged. A hidden blade flashed in his hand. Kang Minit-jun caught his wrist. Twisted. The knife clattered to the floor. He looked into the eyes of the man who had haunted him for 6 years. The man who had threatened his family. The man who had tried to take everything. This is for Amora, he said quietly. And then it was over. Kang Minit-jun returned to the estate at dawn. His hands were clean. His suit was untouched. But something in his eyes had changed. Zainab was waiting. She did not ask what had happened. She did not need to. She simply walked to him. She wrapped her arms around him. And she held him as the sun rose over Seoul. It's done, he murmured against her hair. I know. We're safe now. I know. She pulled back. She looked into his eyes. Amora is awake. She's been asking for you. His expression softened. The hardness melted. The cold receded. Then let's not keep her waiting. They walked into the house together. Amora was in the kitchen, sitting at the counter, eating bear-shaped pancakes. When she saw him, her face lit up. Appa. You're back. He crossed the room. He lifted her from the chair. He held her against his chest. I'm back, he said. And I'm never leaving again. She hugged him tight. Promise. Promise. And this time, he meant it. We are so grateful you're still with us. This story is almost at its end, but your support makes every word worth writing. Please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and what you thought of this chapter. We read every single one. 3 weeks passed. The estate was repaired. Security was rebuilt, stronger than before. Life resumed a cautious rhythm. But there was still one conversation that needed to happen. On a quiet Sunday morning, Kang Minit-jun and Zainab sat Amora down in the garden. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom. Petals drifted through the air like pink snow. Amora looked between them curiously. Is something wrong? Zainab took her daughter's hands. No, sweetheart. Nothing is wrong. We need to tell you something. Amora's eyes widened. Am I in trouble? No. Kang Minit-jun's voice was gentle. You are not in trouble. They exchanged a glance. 7 years of secrets. 7 years of protection. And now, the truth. Amora, Zainab began, you know how you've always asked about your daddy? The little girl nodded. You said he was far away. That he would love me if he could. That's right. And I meant every word. Zainab's eyes glistened. But sweetheart, he wasn't as far away as I thought. Amora looked confused. Kang Minit-jun leaned forward. Amora. Do you remember when we met on the airplane? Yes. You were in the fancy seat next to me. That's right. And do you remember what you asked me to let you call me? She nodded slowly. Appa. Do you know why you wanted to call me that? She shook her head. He took her small hand in his. The tattoo on his wrist was visible, the mark of his bloodline. The same blood that ran through her veins. Because you felt it, he said quietly. Even before you knew. You felt that we were connected. Her eyes grew wide. Amora, Zainab whispered. Minute Jun is your father. Your real father. Your Appa. The silence that followed was profound. Amora looked at her mother. Then at the man holding her hand. Then back at her mother. My real Appa. Yes, baby. But I thought. Tears began to fall from her hazel eyes. I thought I didn't have one. I thought he didn't want me. Kang Minute Jun's heart shattered. He pulled her into his arms. I wanted you, he said fiercely. I have always wanted you. I just didn't know you existed. Why? She sobbed. Why didn't you know? Zainab knelt beside them. That's my fault, baby. I made a mistake. I thought I was keeping you safe by hiding. But I was wrong. And I'm so sorry. Amora cried. Kang Minute Jun cried. Zainab cried. And in that garden, beneath the cherry blossoms, a family was finally, truly reunited. That evening, as the sun set over Seoul, Kang Minute Jun made a promise. He gathered his council, the men who had served him for years. He stood before them in the great hall of the estate. And he spoke words that none of them had ever expected to hear. I am stepping back from operations. The room went silent. Not retiring. Not fully. But my priorities have changed. He paused. I have a daughter. And a family. And they deserve more than a man who is always looking over his shoulder. Kwon Jae-hyun stepped forward. Chairman, the organization will continue. Under trusted leadership. Under my oversight. But my days of direct engagement are over. He looked around the room. Any man who cannot accept this may leave now. With my blessing and without consequence. No one moved. Then it is decided. He turned and walked out. Behind him, his men exchanged glances. They had followed him into war. They had killed for him. They had been prepared to die for him. And now, for the first time, they were watching him choose something else. Something they had never seen him choose before. Peace. 2 months later, on a clear autumn day, Kang Minute Jun married Zainab Bello. The ceremony was small. Private. Held in the garden where they had told their daughter the truth. Zainab wore white, a flowing gown that caught the light and made her look like something from a dream. Her hair was braided with gold thread. Her dark eyes shone with tears. Kang Minute Jun wore black, as always. But on his collar, pinned over his heart, was a single pink rose. Amora had chosen it. Amora herself wore a dress of pale blue. She stood between her parents, holding a basket of flower petals. Her smile never faltered. The officiant spoke words of union and hope. Words that neither Kang Minute Jun nor Zainab had ever expected to hear applied to their lives. But here they were. Alive. Together. Free. Do you take this woman to be your wife? I do. Do you take this man to be your husband? I do. They exchanged rings. Simple bands. No diamonds. No excess. Just gold against skin, a symbol of something eternal. You may kiss the bride. Kang Minute Jun looked at the woman before him. The woman who had given him a daughter. The woman who had run to protect them both. The woman who had come back despite everything. He leaned in. And the kiss was soft. Gentle. A promise. Amora cheered. The small gathering applauded. And somewhere in the sky, the sun broke through the clouds, bathing the garden in golden light. 1 year later. Amora was 8 now. She had grown taller. Her curls had grown longer. Her confidence had blossomed into something radiant. She called him Appa without hesitation. She called her mother Mommy without fear. She lived in a house filled with love, something she had never thought possible. Kang Minute Jun had kept his promise. He had stepped back from the shadows. He had built a life around morning pancakes and bedtime stories and weekend trips to places Amora wanted to explore. He still carried the weight of his past. The tattoos on his skin would never fade. The enemies he had made would never fully disappear. But he had chosen. And the choice had set him free. Zainab had rebuilt her career, consulting for legitimate businesses, traveling when needed, but always coming home. Home. A word she had not used in 7 years. A word that finally meant something again. Their family was not perfect. They argued. They struggled. They carried scars that would never fully heal. But they were together. And that was enough. On Amora's 8th birthday, they threw a party in the garden. Children ran through the cherry blossoms. Laughter filled the air. Kang Minit-jun stood at the edge of the celebration, watching. Zainab came to stand beside him. "You're smiling," she said. "Am I?" "You are. It looks good on you." He turned to look at her. "You gave me this." "Gave you what?" "Everything." He gestured at the scene before them. "A daughter. A family. A reason to live beyond power." Zainab slipped her hand into his. "You gave me those things too." They stood in silence, watching their daughter blow out candles on a cake shaped like a bear. "Mommy. Appa. Look." They walked to her. They stood on either side. They smiled for the photograph. And in that moment, that single, perfect moment, Kang Minit-jun realized something. He had spent his whole life building an empire. He had conquered rivals. He had accumulated wealth beyond measure. He had made his name a weapon. But none of it mattered. Not the money. Not the power. Not the fear. What mattered was this. A little girl with curly hair and hazel eyes. A woman with a smile that made his heart stop. A family that had survived against all odds. He had lost them once. He had found them again. And he would spend the rest of his life making sure he never lost them again. Amora looked up at him. "Appa." "Yes. I love you." 3 words. Simple. Innocent. Devastating. He knelt down. He took her hands. He looked into her eyes, the same gray hazel that stared back at him from the mirror every morning. "I love you too," he said. "More than anything in this world." She threw her arms around his neck. And Kang Minit-jun, the silent chairman, the most feared man in Asia, the boy who had watched his father die and built an empire from the ashes, held his daughter and let the tears fall. Because for the first time in his life, he understood what strength truly meant. It was not the ability to destroy. It was the courage to love. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey. This story was written for you, for everyone who believes in second chances, hidden destinies, and the power of family. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment telling us what you thought and where you're watching from. We love reading every single one. And if you want more stories like this, stories of love, redemption, sacrifice, and hope, make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Until next time, remember that the people we love are the truest treasures we'll ever find. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being part of this community. We'll see you in the next story.